Good morning. Well, I guess it could be good afternoon or good evening, depending upon what time you're looking at this. But today we're going to talk about solving literal equations, but you can also see them sometimes as solving formulas. So really the whole purpose of this next section is we begin Unit 1B. Okay, so if you are going to download the iBook, which you should, it would be the Unit 1B iBook. Okay, let's make sure to do that for additional resources and any extra help that you might need. But this first section of Unit 1 of the second part, so we split it up into two parts, is all formulas. So as you can see, you have A minus B equals C, W equals A over L. Like, this is all formulas. And the reason why they're called formulas and not just equations is because there's more than one unknown in these formulas or these equations, right? Like, as you can see, this first one, we're going to solve for the letter A, but we don't know what A is, nor do we know what B and C is. But that's okay, because we're going to still use the same operations that we used before, which are inverse operations. Okay, so if it says plus, we want to subtract. If it says division, we want to multiply. If it's something squared, we want to take the square roots, right? So using all those inverse operations. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into it. We're going to go through some examples, and then you'll have an exit ticket. Number one, solve for A. So again, A is what we want to get on the side by itself. So we want to take everything else over to the other side. So if A is what we want by itself, and we want to get rid of B, well, if it's a negative B, we can add it to the opposite side of the equal sign. All right, and even though we don't know what it is, it's a letter, that's okay. So that means we don't know if these are like terms right now, right? They could be, but we don't know that because there's no number there. So instead, we're just going to use the same signs that they already have. This is a positive C and a positive B. So we're going to just say C plus B. All right, and as long as A is on the side by itself, we're done. And then later on, when somebody says C equals 2 or B equals 5, then we can take those numbers and plug them back in. But for right now, we're just going to leave it as this formula. All right, number two, solve for A. Okay, so A is on the top of a fraction. It says A divided by L equals W. Okay, well, if I need to get rid of L because A is on the top of the fraction, since it was divided by L, I'm going to multiply by L. Okay, so I'm multiplying by L, and that's L over 1. So that cancels out, and so I'm left with A on the right side because it would be A divided by 1, which is just A, and I have L times W. Anybody recognize this formula, by the way? Okay, so that's it. Solving for A, we got A by itself. Okay. Example 3, solve for P. Okay, P is right here, so let's get rid of the furthest thing away, which is that W. W is positive, so let's subtract W. Okay, now it's a negative 3P, and this says negative 3 times P, so the opposite of times is division. Again, notice that I'm not simplifying any of these letters, right, these variables, because I don't know what they represent yet. So I'm just keeping it as is. I can't really simplify anything unless there are coefficients that are like terms. But the letters are not. We have to assume that they're different letters of the alphabet, which they are. Duh. All right, example 4. Solve for L. So this says A divided by L equals W, right? Okay, well, now the letter that we want to solve for is on the bottom. So unlike this one up here where it was on the top, if we multiply by A, well, that would change the entire problem. It does not say L divided by A, right? It's the other way around, A divided by L. So what we have to do is, this is a two-step problem. We're going to get L out of the denominator first, doing the same thing we did before. So now it brings it over to the left side. Okay, and now we're going to get the W over to the other side. So we're going to divide by W. So notice that this was a two-step problem. L and W's cancel. A divided by W. Okay, so if the variable that you want to solve for is on the bottom of a fraction, it's going to be a two-step problem. You're going to have to multiply first and then divide. All right, example 5, solve for Y. Okay, Y is positive, so is 2x. We want to get rid of 2x, so we're going to subtract it. So we have Y equals negative 2x plus 5. It's a positive 5. And now Y is by itself, so we're done there. Okay, example 6. By the way, if I'm moving too fast, feel free to pause it, write it down, and then come back to it. Solve for y. Okay, so we want to add 7, get rid of the 7, because again, we're using inverse operations. Now we have left y divided by 5 equals negative 2x plus 7. Okay, now I'm going to multiply to get rid of that 5. Multiply everything on the left and everything on the right. So now the 5's cancel. I'm left with y equals. Multiplying everything on the right means I need to distribute that 5 to both. And I'm done. Okay, so just be careful. Make sure you're multiplying all the way across. Okay, next one. Solve for y. So let's get rid of the 4x. It's 4 times x. But we don't want to get rid of just the 4, we want to get rid of the 4 and the x, so that's how we know to subtract instead of divide, because we're getting rid of all of it, and not just a component of it. Okay, all right, y still got a 2 by it, it says 2 times y, so we're going to divide by 2. So y equals, okay, so when you have something like this, where it's got 2 terms, and you got a division on the bottom, you have to basically, what we call spread the love, right? You got to divide by both sides. So negative 4x divided by 2 is negative 2x, and positive 20 divided by 2 is a positive 10. Okay, there's your answer there. All right, last example here. Okay, example 8, solve for y. So in this case, it's a negative y, so I have 2 options. I'll just use it first. Let's go ahead and subtract 9, because 9 is positive, the y is negative. Okay, 1.5x minus 9. All right, now here's where some students would make a mistake, right? Because they would forget this negative symbol right here, but it's still negative. It doesn't say solve for negative y, it says solve for positive y. So we got to divide everything by negative 1. That gets rid of the negative on this side, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And now you have negative 1.5x plus 9. So it changes the signs here, here, and here by dividing by negative 1. Okay, so just be careful. If it says negative y, make sure to divide. Or you can multiply by negative 1 too. You can multiply everything by negative 1. That would also count. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Work on these practice problems, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here, I will actually post the answers for that. Okay, so the notes key and the answer key, and then your exit ticket is below. So again, I'm going to post the answers to these so you can check your work, but you should try these first and then do the exit ticket. All right, let me know if you have any questions. I'll see Group B on Tuesday. Group A, we're going to be going through our test retakes today.